Good morning. It is 6:55 a.m. on Tuesday, October 1st, 2019. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, despite my bold proclamation about maybe stopping using Facebook Live, I am once again doing my double recording setup where I have a local recording backup to ensure that I have a version that doesn't just get all glitchy. But then again, yesterday when I did it like this, the Facebook Live version was fine. So that would be interesting if this starts consistently working well. It would make me really curious why, like what the cause is. Like, did it just stop, or is there something about this setup with the camera and all? I don't know. But in any event, here I am today. It's Tuesday. Yesterday at work was, it was fine, like from like my personal perspective. Some of the stuff we were trying to do didn't go very well for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to go further into that because, that's work stuff. But, yeah, it was like we were trying to do some stuff and we were, for reasons that I won't elaborate on, we were unable to do those things. Anyway. When I was driving up to Acadia National Park with my mom, we decided to listen to an audiobook, and we decided to listen to one that I had actually already listened to once before, but was new to her, and that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. And I kind of wanted to re-listen to that personally anyway, because I really enjoyed both it and the second book in the series the first time anyway. But I had never made it to the third one, and I kind of felt like I wanted to refresh my memory of the first two parts of the story before listening to the third book in the trilogy. So, as a result, I'm doing that. But that means I'm thinking about it. And it's very exciting, too, re-listening to book one now, knowing some of the revelations that come to light in book two, for example. Seeing the seeds planted and the ground laid for those revelations, but also now knowing that because this trilogy was pretty successful, that my understanding is that there's going to be a TV show version, but also that they're making a tabletop RPG version, or based on like the setting and the world building and stuff like that, and that's really interesting, I think. If you're not familiar at all with the story, it's in the subgenre you might call post-apocalyptic, as in the sense that there's the world we know, and then at some point there was a huge apocalypse, but then society kind of rebuilt itself. But in the history of this world, that actually starts happening over and over again. What we encounter is a world that has near constant threat of earthquakes and tsunamis and a very unstable geological, a very unstable planet from a geological perspective. But what you've also got is people who have developed the ability to manipulate like geological energy and rocks and heat and cold and in some really interesting ways. And so it's kind of a story about like survival and some of the history of how it got that way, and it does some really cool things in so like, for example, again, I'm going to do my best to not spoil anything, but the first book, for example, is basically constantly cutting between three different stories. We've got a young girl who has just discovered that she is one of these people with abilities called Origins, and she is taken from her family and brought to this place called the Fulcrum, where she's going to learn about how to use your powers responsibly and all of that sort of thing. Then you also have a woman called Cyanite who is going out on a mission. She meets this, really powerful origin named Alabaster, and they go off on a mission and a bunch of stuff happens to them. And then we also have a woman much later who is dealing with a very personal tragedy at the same time that there is a big cataclysm that we are told in the narration is basically like the world is going to end as a result of this. So but the book does some really cool stuff with those three stories, and how they connect to each other is surprising, or I was surprised anyway. And then book 2 just, ratchets it up with even more revelations. It's great stuff. And so I really love it. And I kind of got sidetracked just talking about the book, but I guess what I was originally thinking I was going to talk about was just how do you do some of the things that are really neat tricks from the books that I really enjoyed. I'm not sure you can do the same way in a TV show. It's very much like in the Magicians TV show, where in the books of the Magicians, you have one character who knows a second character, loses touch with them for a long time, and then eventually reconnects. And it's only later that we get the whole backstory of what that other character was up to in the intervening time. But in the TV show, they chose to cut back and forth, which is very much more effective for a TV show, I think, partly just because the nature of a TV show is you have to have the actor on hand. But also, it just is kind of, I think it plays better in that format. But it was so effective in the book. It's just the different mediums have their different strengths. But then again, the tabletop role-playing game obviously is going to be completely different from any kind of a plot perspective, but all the different stuff about what different people are good at, and humans have sort of been, like a caste system has kind of culturally reemerged, but in a way that you could potentially use almost like player classes in a role-playing game, like so-and-so is a strongback and so-and-so is an innovator and so on. It could be really cool. But in any event, I've got to go get ready for work. So I'm going to talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes. Hopefully this video, the Facebook Live version, isn't glitchy, and that might foretell a future where I can figure out what the problem was and then just actually go back to doing one version, but having it be good. So, wouldn't that be great? In the meantime, I'll talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.